Hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me, as always, is James Fox. How are you, James?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. Welcome to our ranking season. It is the time where we put out our preseason top 30. So that was what I was thinking about starting us off here with, as I know that that's what people are interested in.
Yeah, it's good. I think everybody's ranked now, right? We're ranked everywhere. We know how the White Sox farm system stands across like every one of these publications.
Yeah, certainly. MLB Pipeline just put theirs out as well. So, yeah, I'd say that that is fairly accurate. Everybody has put out their list as of right now that I can think of, anyway. Anybody that's worth their salt, I suppose. So,
Yeah, sixth overall at Pipeline. I think they'll take that right now, just based on where they were like a year ago or so.
yep, that is a substantial upgrade over where they were at last year. That is for certain. So I figured I would just start off and like we kind of just break this down in multiples of five here, and start with 1 through 5. And these are like, of course, the guys that we talk about the most. So I don't think that it'll necessarily go longer than any of the other
Yeah,
ones, which it normally does on most other streams slash podcasts, is that they talk about these five guys the most. And I think that we can pretty much just fly through this to a point. Um, so at number one, we had Noah Schultz, which seems to be a
it's a
consensus
it's a
across,
big shocker. Yes.
yeah, across everywhere. Everybody's got the same thing. Um, Now this is kind of like a thing where number two, which is kind of pseudo common across a couple of the sites. Others maybe not as much, but we have Teal at number two.
Yeah, which is a bit controversial. I think. Um, Obviously, not all of us had him too. We had six of us rank, and this is just kind of the way that it came out. I'd be fine with multiple guys here, honestly. Probably what, three different names that we'll get into here in a second. But I think the one is pretty much like locked in stone, pretty much everywhere. But I think 2, 3, 4 is pretty debatable. Um, and I think 7, who we'll get to later, is pretty much locked in stone as well, in my opinion. For now, that could change too in a positive way soon.
Number three, we got Hagen Smith, and then Colson Montgomery, and then finishing out the top five, we have Edgar Caro. Your thoughts on that top five as like kind of how it lays out? How did is that what you expected to be, that order?
With those 5,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, like I thought those 5 players would be the 5 players, but I didn't know the order that it would be in necessarily.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, we get all of the Future Sox writers and contributors. Not all of them, but I think it was, what is there, 6 of us this time? Yeah, so there's 6 of us, and what we do is we make our top 30s, and basically what we do is we, for every slot there is a allotted number from 30 to 1, based on number 1 being 30 points and number 30 being 1 point, and what those points add up to basically adds up to who fits into our top 30 as an overall. And I will say that Elijah and myself, we had, I think we had the exact like same top 6, maybe, and ours are a little different than how it actually ended up coming out. Um, I think that that's probably because myself and I'm the reason why I did it the way I did it was because I am a firm believer in Edgar Caro, and I've always been a fan over Kyle Teal personally. Um, so I kind of felt like with Teal coming in at number 2, I was actually very surprised when I saw the top 5.
Yeah, and I think Hagen at 2 would make maybe like I don't know. I mean, that would be fine. I would think like Colson's 2 some places, right?
Yeah. I'd have to look. I think he's kind of dropped down a little bit
Where he's
as of
4.
late.
He's like 4 a lot, I feel like. But is this microphone any better?
I don't know.
Am I
Yeah,
still
see,
super loud?
yeah. Kevin said that you were super loud and I was quiet. He says much better now.
Yeah,
All right, cool.
I think I fixed it. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All good.
But no, I
Yeah,
think like you kind of talk about those 5 and like, obviously um Montgomery, like I kind of feel like is the guy who is most likely to like fly up like these rankings, right? Like if he has like we just haven't seen him at all. So, I feel like Montgomery was like a little bit tough to slot. And then the top 4 guys, while you and Elijah obviously were higher on Kiro, I feel like most people do have the 2 lefties and Teal and Montgomery like in the first 4 at most places in some order.
yeah. I don't disagree. Like, so if you look at and like kind of one of the things I wanted to do here is kind of give like a contrast with MLB Pipeline on the way through our top 30 here, just because their top 30 is considerably different than ours once you get out of the top 5. And the MLB Pipeline, they have Schultz, Teal, Hagen Smith, just like we do, but then they have Colson Montgomery, then Braden Montgomery at 4 and 5. So Caro gets bumped to number 6 on there. So it's not that much of a deviation because we have Braden Montgomery at 6. So it's just like they just flipped those two, and then otherwise it was the exact same. So moving along here with the 6 through 10 range, we have Braden Montgomery, Grant Taylor, Jairo Iriarte, Mason Adams, and then George Wilco.
Yeah, so similar to us, I think. Like we talked to Jim Callis, where like they have Wolko. Most people do not have him like in this grouping.
Yeah, they also have him at number 10. They also have Jairo Iriarte in there, but they have him at number 9, as where we have him at 8. One significant change here is that they have Chase Mydroth at number 8, which we'll talk about him in a little bit. Your thoughts on this on these slots here?
So I'm actually kind of surprised that Pipeline has him at 8, just based off like some of the conversations we've had with Jim Callis and what he values. Obviously, I don't think he's the only one. Like he does the White Sox list, but I don't know that it's totally up to him, like how the guys rank. Um, I don't know. I just think it's certainty and like obviously close to the big leagues, but it like there's just lacks impact a little bit. So yeah, that one's a little bit of a surprise. I think Montgomery 5 or 6 makes the most sense right now. Grant Taylor, I think we're gonna get to once we talk about spring training results. But I mean, so for anybody that's watched, like I know I've had like a lot of people who have checked in or like I've just like seen stuff on Twitter. And look, I know everybody doesn't follow this stuff like you and I do, and people who listen to this show and some of our other shows probably knows who Grant Taylor is. There's a lot of people that didn't know who Grant Taylor was. And they see Grant Taylor like doing what he's doing in spring training over 2 innings and they're like, who the hell is this guy type of thing? Like, yeah, if he does this and pitches like every 5 days, he's going to be a top 50 prospect in baseball probably, and you'll be talking about him moving up into this like Schultz Hagen group probably, but we don't have to do too much of that right now.
Yeah, I think as far as Grant Taylor goes, it's just only a matter of time and innings for him until he gets the recognition that we think that he's going to end up ultimately getting before he makes his way up.
Yeah, and I think like 19 innings last year, like I get it. Like I would slow play this too. I understand being ahead of it and throwing him on a list like in the 90s, right? So you can be like, "Hey, I had Grant Taylor on before everybody else did." But I mean, it's one of those things where if he makes 8 starts at Winston-Salem and it's like this, all of a sudden he'll just be like 45 somewhere, on somebody's list like after not being ranked basically.
Yeah, I think that's I've thought that it's only a matter of time until this happens for quite a while. I was actually kind of thinking that when we saw him pitch last year, that we would end up seeing him, popping up in more top 100s than we saw. I think we saw it in 2 top 100s.
Yeah.
So,
So obviously, like, we have people listening and watching, and we get a lot of comments and questions and stuff. Does anybody feel like, I don't know, after seeing a couple of spring training like appearances, that he should be debated more into the actual top 6, or does 7, is he like locked into 7 right now? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, I know some people might be down on Montgomery, on Colson a little bit, like, or some, like, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there that thinks Taylor should be higher. I think it's easy to slot him at 7 though.
yeah, I think that it's a, obviously we made these lists before spring training,
Hmm.
so seeing the spring training performances, we generally try not to do any knee jerk things on spring training for the major league team. So I would think for our top 30, we should also not do that to this
Well, we
point.
we we didn't. I was asking if
Right.
fans wanted to. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just,
Yeah.
I would think anyway that you would at least want to have like a little bit of prudence when it comes to just jumping guys up. But like a midseason re-rank, we're going
Hmm.
to be looking at him probably bumping up there. Not to mention we're going to have some graduation, so we'll see what
Yeah.
happens there.
Well, I think the Iriarte one is like an upside play. I think you're gambling a little bit on the fact that um maybe like he needs to be better this year and he needs to throw a little bit harder. Um, if you decided to put Sean Burke up there instead, or even like a Mason Adams instead, I would totally understand that. It just kind of depends on what gets valued, I think.
Yeah. So you got anything else on the 6 through 10 guys?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't really see any questions on those guys there, but I did see this question here from Kevin. Where do the guys that they just announced need Tommy John fit into this? Is that a massive blow for the system? Um, we're on Tommy John number 4.
Yes. Is
So we got Blake Larson, Kai Bush, Juan Carrera, and I'm blanking. Who's the other one?
Yeah, who else do we have?
Perlander Baroa.
Perlander Baroa. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Perlander Baroa hurts the big league club this year, and it hurts like from the standpoint of, like, that might have been a guy who was your setup guy, and you were like maybe going to trade him and get some stuff for him. I mean, does it significantly alter his like future? Not necessarily, because the White Sox are terrible. He'll be a year older. Like, there's no reason why he can't be in the 2026 White Sox bullpen instead. But yeah, I mean, it sucks for all these guys that happens to. I will say, like, Juan Corellas is the perfect example of like this happens to like guys of all shapes and sizes, because he's not some like hulking hard thrower. Like, he's kind of more of a soft, and he's not a soft tosser, but he's not what you would typically be like, oh man, that guy's arm's gonna blow out type of thing. So
Yeah, he's not a max effort guy when you see him pitch. I mean, he does throw hard ish, but he's not one of those guys that you look at him and go, "Man, that guy's going 100% every single throw." So that's kind of it was kind of shocking. And if you guys follow us on X/Twitter, Jeff Cohen was remarking on how he's just having a conversation the day beforehand, and the next day it was put out there that Juan Carrera needed Tommy John, and the day before he was all smiles and seemed to be having a great time. So it is a
mm,
rather unfortunate reality when it comes to stacking talent for a farm
yeah.
system.
Well, we had video of him throwing bullpens like the day before. I mean, like, we saw Baroa get hurt. We got the report on Blake Larson. We got the report on Kai Bush. So it can just happen at any point, man.
Yeah. And I will say that I'm happy that we didn't get that Dane Dunning type thing where the White Sox decided to have him try and rehab his arm instead of just immediately sending him for Tommy John. I'm glad that we don't have to deal with that and think about that for the next, I don't know, they're having them roll him out in like September and then being like, oh, well, it didn't fix the problem. So now he's getting TJ. So I'm glad that they're just doing that and getting it out of the way now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I feel like doctors will recommend, or like the first recommended thing is like rest and ice, and you don't want to do surgery if you don't have to. But usually it leads to Tommy John surgery in most cases.
Yeah. Speaking of, I mean, I'll just throw this out there. I sent you a text before we came on the air here that Garrett Cole is now being recommended for Tommy John in New York. So, I mean, you see, it just seems to strike everywhere because, I mean, Verlander just had it a few years ago as well. It just doesn't matter.
Be Garrett Cole's
It,
second one?
I can't remember if it's as.
I feel like it has to be. I feel like there
I
might have
mean,
been one. I feel like there was one in Pittsburgh, possibly.
that's possible. I don't remember. I do know that that he got shut down last year for the elbow problems as well, and then he ended up finishing the season out, which he had some good stuff as throughout the year. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's tough for them. And with Stanton now also possibly needing surgery on both of his elbows, it kind of makes me wonder what's going to happen with the Yankees in
With
general.
the Bombers, yeah. I mean, you think they're on the phone for Sandy Alcantara yet?
I mean, it's possible. If you have not seen Sandy Alcantara in spring training yet, I saw him pitch last week, and I think he was over 100 for like half of his pitches in the first inning.
Yeah.
So that guy's ready to get moving here. Let's see.
Could
Uh,
interest them in a lightly used Martin Perez.
yes, please. Doug mentions that Colson's back worries him. How worried are you about Colson's back at this point?
I mean, it's not great. A 23-year-old like has back spasms that keep him out for 5 days randomly. I mean, I will say there's been a lot of, and whether it's the propaganda machine or not, like Bruce Levine, I've heard multiple people kind of talk about how the White Sox are actually not worried at all about Colson's defense. Like they think he's a shortstop. Like they think he's playing shortstop. I think if that's true and they're right, he's valuable as even a high walk like power hitting type that can stand at shortstop. But he's got to play. I mean, backs are just that's not great.
Yeah, it is not good, and it's also not good for continuity with him. It's like he's just getting revved up in spring training, and he has to take 2 weeks off, and now he's got to come back.
Well, I think we were right, and I don't know that we would have been right, but I don't see any way he can break camp now. It's just not enough time.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense seeing what
You're gonna
the
ask him to
results have been.
you're gonna ask him to come to Chicago and hit in the cold, like with a bad back too. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I agree. So moving along here with 11 through 15, we have Caleb Bonnemer, Chase Mydroth, Sean Burke, Brian Ramos, and Aldrin Batista.
Yeah, so I heard good things about Caleb Bonnemer this week from Elijah and others. I mean, I've heard just like out in the backfields, like he looks like one of the best players back there. Heard similar reports from Instructs. I think he's another guy. Him and Grant Taylor, I think, are the two guys from this system who I think are the most likely to just like all of a sudden pop and be up there that we kind of hear about. I'm really curious to see how long they keep Bonnemer in Arizona. You'll know what they think if he's on the Kannapolis roster right away. I think that'll be a pretty good indication of like what they think he is right now. And even if he starts in Arizona, I don't think it's like necessarily a negative. I just think you let him go do it for a couple weeks, see if he's too good for that league, and then I think he spends a lot of time in Kannapolis. But that's an important pick for them. I mean, you spend $3 million in the second round and pay first round money to a prep kid. Like he better be pretty good, and it sounds like he might be.
Let's hope. It'd be nice to see him pop off onto some lists here and gain some traction, but obviously would need to see him playing first to for that to be able to happen. As for your statement here, George Wilco, who was at number 10, I kind of feel like, assuming that he can manage to bring down that strikeout rate, that we'll start seeing him pop up on a little bit, at least in honorable mentions of top 100 type stuff, assuming that the K rate goes down.
Yeah, how much are people going to want to see him in high A first? I don't know. Not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Danny's asking if, with all the injuries across baseball this spring, is there a trade market for Clev before the season even starts?
I doubt it.
I also
White
do.
Sox, White Sox closer Mike Clevenger, baby.
Yeah, I guess.
There might be a trade market for Davis Martin.
That was my immediate thought, was that if anybody's going to go, it was probably going to be him, and
And
I
I
would
don't
be
think,
very sad.
yeah, I don't think they'll do that. But I do think there's a chance that if he's your opening day starter with a 3.5 ERA on a horrible team, that's one of the big deadline moves. Because they do have quite a bit of pitching, and I would keep him. Like if it's not a blow your doors off offer, um, but he might be pretty good. Like he's pretty valuable for good teams.
Yeah. So Doug brings up Caleb Bonner staying at shortstop. Heard
For
nope.
for now, I mean, he might be third or second, like ultimately, but he's going to play short right now.
Yeah, and all the games so far that anybody's seen him, as far as I know, he's been at shortstop. So I would plan on him sticking there for at least the near future. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know.
Well, he's just
Uh,
another guy. He's just another guy that might get big. So they always
yeah,
say that. They always say that. Like, oh, you can't play shortstop. He's going to be too big. Okay.
yeah. The too large body thing is one of my favorites as well. Will the Yankees take Andrew Benintendi? Doug asks.
Why? Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it,
If
but
he starts hitting again, right?
yeah, I'm really worried about Andrew Benintendi, because like guys who miss spring training usually suck, and he's already not good. Like I do not love the idea of like rushing him back to get him in the opening day lineup. Like I think that's kind of dumb, and I hope they don't do it.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate. I mean, like we said that with the second half that he had last year, they were hoping for a decent start coming into this year, and then of course he goes and breaks his hand again.
Yeah.
Um, just trying to take quick look here. Um,
Well,
and the
Bautista was in that range, right? 15.
Batista was
Aldrin
15. Yeah.
Bautista. Yeah, so
Yep.
he's the one. I think we have a couple of writers that think that he should even be higher than that, like up in that top group. I just kind of, we'll see more at Winston and see if he can matriculate up into the high minors and see what it looks like then. But he's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and if you look at the MLB Pipeline list, he's Aldrin Batista is all the way down at 24.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting, uh, you know, thought here that between the two, I'm kind of surprised. Maybe he belongs in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
19's the right number. Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
yeah, there you go. Exactly. Right smack in the middle. Who knows? So 16 through 20, we have Wickelman Gonzalez, Kai Bush, Haral Perez, Jacob Gonzalez, and Alexander Albertus, who's coming in. The Dodgers trade piece that we got with Haral Perez. So both of those guys end up slotting in the same little area here, but the difference being we haven't seen Albertus yet at all.
Yeah, and Sosa or not Sosa. Gonzalez a little bit higher on Pipeline than I expected, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I know they probably think he's going to stay at shortstop, so that's like where some of the value comes in. Obviously, you were privy to some information just about how hurt he was like down the stretch playing. I think that factored in. Um, but yeah, I was just, I think what he's up at 14 or something on Pipeline.
Yeah, 14.
Yeah, so that's a little bit higher than us. I think Albertus is he's got to play, man. Like he can really hit. I think it depends on what position he ultimately ends up playing. If these guys are all second basemen, um, I don't really know how valuable that is. He's definitely like a hit first guy, and it's not a ton of power.
Yeah. Like I put Haral Perez above Albertus just because I know that Haral Perez has more power in the bat than Albertus does. And, it's like what we saw from Haral Perez. He looked okay. He didn't look, we weren't looking at a burgeoning all-star here, but he did make contact and he could hit the ball and a lot of doubles. He didn't hit as many home runs for the cannonballers as I was expecting, because I think he had like I don't know, 8 home runs with the Dodgers A ball club before he came over, something like that. And then I think he only ended up hitting like one or something. But yeah, as blank name says here, Perez seems to have more upside here. Uh, but the bat to ball for Albertus is supposed to be very good. So again, we haven't seen him. So
Yeah, I mean, this probably isn't a surprise, but I'm pretty curious to see minor league rosters and see where all these guys end up because it'll kind of give you a look at what their plan is for some of these guys. I mean, obviously, Bergoya, like those three guys I kind of see as like they're similar. They all came in the same year. Even you want to lump Samuel Zavala into that group, they were like former international signings from other teams that you've kind of infused into your system like right around the same time. So just seeing how closely those guys are and seeing if it looks any different with like an actual hitting department in place. So that'll be a little bit interesting.
yeah, one thing that I'd found interesting is that there was a double A slash triple A game for the White Sox versus the Reds today, and it being a double A and triple A squad, William Bergoya was there, and he was in high A last year. So I mean, that pretty much guarantees that he's moving up to double A or triple A. I would imagine anyway.
Well, so it's not terribly surprising, right? Because you're gonna have Perez, you're gonna have Antonacci like in the middle infield, like too. So if you have Albertus, Antonacci, and Perez like in those spots, like at high A and Canny, you got some other guys too, like at Canny. Like I could see that. I could see him being. I hope he's at shortstop though if he's in Birmingham. Well, actually, that would be Gonzalez probably. So who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what. I can't imagine that Gonzalez is going to get bumped. I think they would probably need to see a couple good months out of him first. So Mike's chiming in here, saying that he was playing short. So um, debut in 26 for the mob boss Antonacci.
Oh yeah,
I guess we'll see. Um,
26. Whew.
yeah, well,
I don't know.
he didn't end up making Sam Antonacci didn't end up making the top 30 for MLB Pipeline. He slots in at number 30 on ours, but I'll hop back here to what is that? That's 20 through 20, 20 through 24,
Yeah.
21 through 25. That's what it
Yeah.
is. Uh, and that's William Bergoya, Samuel Zavala, Blake Larson, Juan Carrera, and Nick Nastrini.
Yeah, two Tommy John guys. And we didn't go back in and move anybody or change anything. We just left it how we voted for it. I don't think it would have changed anything for me with Blake Larson. This year was going to be 50 to 60 innings anyway. I think we've kind of talked about that, how I don't really think this is going to be much of a detriment to his career and it could benefit him. It sucks for the kid. But that's about it. I mean, look, this could influence, Corella on our midseason list, maybe, where he's not on it, like because of a Tommy John and like his roster status and that sort of thing. But this is about right in range for him. The White Sox liked him enough to protect him on the 40 man for Rule 5. And then obviously there's some big time questions here. Like Samuel Zavala could stay on this list for a while, or he could be off of it entirely based off of like how he starts the season. Essentially, my guess is he's at Winston Salem playing a lot of center field. Um, he needs to hit. He gets on base. I think he's pretty decent defensively. But you just can't strike out as much as he does and just not hit the baseball.
Yeah, that's a weird thing about him too. Like the fact that he can walk so much. I can't remember how many walks he had, but I want to say it was like up in the 80s last year. And I was expecting more power, but the issue is the bat to ball just wasn't as good as we were hoping it would be last year. I'm not sure if it was if there's I didn't take enough of I didn't pay enough attention, I guess, to see if there was a hitch with his hands or something like that to go along with that giant leg kick that he had.
Yeah,
So I don't know. We'll see
I
what
like
the changes pay out to.
what's usually your indicator though, because like to me like I feel like usually guys that K this much, it's because like they have a bad like approach at the plate or like they don't know what's coming. And he's like the total opposite of that. Like his
Yeah.
approach is awesome and he walks a ton and he still doesn't hit. So I would lean mechanical. But I feel like you know more about that kind of stuff than I do.
I mean, that would be the one that would make sense, if I mean so there's two things here is that either it's a bad timing mechanism or he's not on plane enough to make contact with this stuff. And if you watch some of his you watch some of his cage time, like at least before this, like this year it's looked a little bit better being on plane, but if you look at last year, like the uppercut on his swing was pretty intense. We got a super chat here from our buddy Danny Miller. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate that. Furky's Future Sox needs to bring back the TLR turkey trot. Never forget. Love the content as always, gents. Thank you so much, Danny. We appreciate you. You are the man. Beef Loaf. Thank you. Smash the like button. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Algo rules. That is right. Um, So yeah, in that slot there between 16 and 25, we have Kai Bush, Blake Larson, and Juan Carrera. All three of them with TJ. So it's going to be one of those things. I don't think that is going to put really that much of a strain on the system's pitching. To be honest, I think that they just have so many arms that I kind of think this is just like a glancing blow that just isn't really going to affect a whole lot, other than the fact that all three of them are pretty good pitchers, but I feel like there will be next man up and there will be plenty of guys taking innings.
Yeah, so the Kai Bush is I'm a little surprised, like, because I knew like we had him a little bit lower, but I thought other publications would have him higher. Like I think it was mid-season last year, or maybe the end of season at Baseball America, where they had him like all the way up at like 7 or 8. Which, look, I know it was like a lot of success at Double A, and his stuff like was a lot better. And then obviously he like struggled a little bit in the big leagues and at Triple A, and maybe he's been hurt or whatever. But I think like his rightful home is here, like in the low 20s. I was just like a little bit surprised that like Pipeline kind of went with us on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe we're not too dumb. So maybe other people are picking up on it. Who knows? So Doug asks if Zavala was really good 2 years ago. And to answer your question, yes, he was good. That's why he was included in the package. The difference being is that he was an A ball, and that bump up to advanced A, which he also took with the Padres, which he kind of took a downturn in. That now he's continuing in advanced A, and he still hasn't. It
Yeah.
just doesn't seem like he's figured it out yet. And I think it's just one of those things that might just take some time, or maybe he won't ever figure it out and we'll never know. But
Yeah, I mean,
as of right now, we're just waiting.
teenagers that walk that much in low A though is usually a really positive sign.
Yep. Yeah, it would be nice to see him take a step this year. I'm hoping. I mean, like he's definitely. It's not for a lack of trying. That much I know. So, so finishing us off here, we got 26 through 30, which is Jake Eater, Casey Sawkey, Nick McLean, Shane Smith, and then Sam Antonacci. So here's an interesting bit of stuff here is that Shane Smith has burst upon the scene with the White Sox here in spring training. And I think that only two people had him in the top 30. And I was one of them. So, yeah, so it's nice to see him. And, I was asked earlier today by Trey, who is in the 108 tournament this year, which is shout out to Trey if he's in here. That it is entirely possible that the velocity has ticked up from being in essentially, like a short stint appearance and not a full starting role. But is it possible that he has just managed to figure out something that's allowing for some extra juice?
I mean, maybe his extension looks good too. He looks like Grant Taylor, like on the mound. They like look similar, just like big hulking righties. They got more out of him somehow. Because remember the first his first appearance when people were cutting him, and now his second two appearances, people like me like want to put him in the starting rotation to start the year. So yeah, who knows? I hope we're way low on. I hope we like look really dumb and Shane Smith is awesome and we're like, ha, he was 29 on our preseason list. Like we're a bunch of morons. That would be tremendous. I just reading the scouting report on him, like he was one of the guys I pegged in the Rule 5 because it just seemed like somebody that would have utility. To me, though, I thought more long man, like multi inning type bulk guy. And now, if that's the role, I would be shocked because I think like you start him. And if you can't start him, if his stuff looks like this, then he's a leverage guy to me. Like he's like a shorter inning, you just like turn him into a whatever, like an eighth inning monster righty type guy. I was not expecting pumping 99 with like the off speed stuff that he has.
Yeah, I mean, like I went back and watched some of his appearances last year, and in both Double A and Triple A, and they're always so terrible with stats. So like I didn't really know like where the velocity was, other than what I heard them say, which was generally around like 95, 96. So the 99 and close to 100 thing is new for me. So I like that a whole bunch.
Yeah, and it looks like the Brewers might have made a mistake here. Like I wonder how much input Walker McKinven had on this one. Too. I mean, I know we talk about him more like he's a run prevention guy. Like we you know, we kind of the what Narvaez thing, like we kind of credit him more with like the catchers than like the pitching side. But he was on that team and Bryce Wilson like came from there too. I would be curious to know, if their scouts kind of liked Shane Smith and then McKinven was like, yes, take him. That's the guy you should take, like essentially. Because his like story is interesting, like he was at Wake Forest and he was pretty decent and then he got hurt and he just like decided to turn pro instead of going back. Um, so he actually has some parallels to Davis Martin.
Yeah. Yeah, being injured and then not going back. That is well, let's see. I saw something here. Go ahead and bring that up. Shane Smith looking pretty stinking good. Not too bad at all. And I will say that the Brewers fans are on tilt on Twitter. The ones that are coming over and seeing the Shane Smith clips, they are not happy about the Brewers front office with that move because of some of the guys that they decided to keep around and then ended up being bopped down to and I would be I would be pretty upset too.
No, they had to know he was going to get taken by someone though. Like my guess is if the Sox didn't take him, he was going 2 or 3. They felt he was expendable, and the White Sox have gotten some utility out of him. So Matt asked if I was drinking a Heineken. I'm not. I'm drinking Mountain Dew because I am dying. Like me and my wife went to something late, like in the city last night, and then obviously last night was daylight savings, and I have young children, so today's been a rough one for me.
Good times. So and then in that last grouping of 5 there, we do have Casey Saki and Nick McLean. Nick McLean, you just dropped that piece what 2 weeks ago, or maybe it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
1 week ago.
sounds about right. It was like right before top 30 came out. So
Yeah, which we've seen one at bat for McLean, which he ended up getting a hit on a wicked bounce out of the infield, and we haven't seen Casey Saki yet at all. So you thinking? We talked about this before, but I want to remember correctly. Were you thinking McLean was going to end up in Canny to start?
I think so, and then I think Saki will be in. I think Saki will be in Winston with Zavala and Braden Montgomery. And I think if they want McLean to play some center field, it has to be Kannapolis, and he didn't play at all last year. So
Yeah. Let's see.
they really like McLean though. They like they're really high on, hey, look, Elijah. They they really like that trio of college bats that they took, like in that draft, where I think they kind of lump them all together. Saki, McLean, Antonacci. They took McLean first, remember, but he got 800K. Saki went next and got 850K, and then they signed Antonacci for 550K in round 5. But generally speaking, those deals are agreed upon kind of ahead of time. So they went into that day 2 of the draft with a plan to add some mid tier college bats, and yeah, I think they kind of like that whole group.
So Elijah chimed in, said McLean had a nice hit in the B game this week, and Mike chimes in, says McLean looks solid this morning as well. So it's nice to hear solid things because we have not seen any of that guy on the field yet, other than the spring
Yeah,
training stuff. So
yeah, I think Matt has a comment like, will Nick McLean be like Matt with slightly less power? I think I don't know that it's a bunch less power. It's definitely less defensive versatility. I don't think he's a center fielder. I think he's probably a corner, but he has the plus arm for it. But he's kind of a tweener for a corner because it's not going to be huge power, but he is one of these just baseball grinder rat types from a good family. And the one thing I will say is like, I don't think that the injuries are necessarily a good thing, but I think he's a little bit like underrated because he's missed as much time as he has. Like every time he played in college, he was really good. He just missed a ton of time. So you could look back on it and think that they got a guy that should have probably been like a $1.5 million signing in the middle of round 2, like had he played 3 college seasons that you got in the third for 800K instead. So, yeah, I think he's a real prospect. Hopefully he's done being hit on the wrists with baseballs. That would be great.
yeah, he's got the whole Benintendi thing going on where he can't get in a batter's box without getting hit in the hands with the baseball.
Well, when I
Or
talked to
Jake
him,
Berger.
he had a good attitude about it. He was like, "Geez, what am I doing wrong?" type thing, like because he's a switch, right? So that's how you broke both hamate bones because he was hitting lefty the one time and broke it's like I think the bottom hand both times. So just that sucks, man.
Yeah, that is brutal. I mean, you finally get back and healthy, and then you switch over to the other side, and then you get hit on that lead hand, and that is tough stuff.
Well, and if you go back and you look at his stats at Arizona State, his junior year that the White Sox took him, they're pretty good, all things considering. He told me that he made it back from a hamate injury in 25 days, which is basically unheard of. So he's definitely playing with pain in the hand. I'm guessing they wouldn't have let him play it if he wasn't cleared. But I can't imagine it felt great.
Question here from Adrian. Asks if Mogollon is going to Kannapolis.
I would be surprised. I just like obviously we didn't rank him. He's still on the list at Pipeline. We talked about it. He was a guy that we talked about a lot. We put him on the just missed. You just to me like you can't K 46% of the time in Arizona and go to Kannapolis to start.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty tough. So just to, I'm gonna go ahead and mention a couple of these like interesting ones on MLB Pipeline. Just interesting because we don't have them on our list
Ooh,
at all.
there's one that I kind of feel bad about now though. But
Well,
go
I
ahead. Go
mean,
ahead.
I mean, there's a couple really. I mean, Tyler Schweitzer's in at number
Mm-hmm.
23,
That one.
and like
Yeah.
I've loved Tyler Schweitzer since we drafted him. I mean, he's a great pitcher. Just like my one concern with him has always been the consistency of his pitch counts. Is that I feel like his pitch counts rise up pretty quickly. Some of his starts, and if he can manage to calm that down a little bit, I feel like his stock will go up. And I don't hold any uh like I'm not scoffing at MLB Pipeline because they have Tyler Schweitzer at 23. I think he's well talented pitcher. I just, kind of one of those ones that's kind of tough.
Well, no, like to me, it almost makes me feel like I don't know. Like as the person that edits the list, right? It's not my list. Like I'm the managing editor, but like we all participate. Like it's one of those where I see that and I'm like, ooh, like should we have like gone back and debated him further to like get him on the list instead of somebody else type of thing.
Yeah, Elijah is for those of you that don't know and don't follow Elijah on Twitter. Um, I think it's Elijah EV8, I think, on Twitter. He is in Arizona, or he was in Arizona, watching spring training stuff. He saw Javier Mogollon hit smack a home run in B game the other day. So if you're not following him, follow him. Also, check out his podcast on here, the Roundup with Jeff and sometimes Dylan, uh, on our network as well.
And Jeff was also in Arizona.
And Jeff was also in Arizona. And here's the other one that they have on their list. Well, one of the other ones that they have on their list that we do not have. And Jamie asks why the hate for Varys.
I think we've been over this. We talked about it last week on the just miss portion. I don't know that there's a defensive position, and if that's the case, it's not enough power for me. That's why I didn't rank him. I think, there's a chance on a bad White Sox team that all of a sudden we get the news alert that like they've promoted Wilfred Varys to the majors and he plays this year. But it's like it's not great defense in a corner, and it hasn't been enough power if it's first base or DH. So that's my issue. Maybe he proves me wrong. I would love it if he went to Charlotte and just mashed, because he can really hit, but you have to really, really, really hit like with his profile.
Yeah, he led the league in doubles in 2023, I think, and was very good last year. He took a step back in that department, but I don't know. They've got him at 29. We don't have him on our list, but he was on our just miss list, so there's that. And then they slot in at number 30 with Alejandro Cruz, which we put him on our just miss list. I don't know if they felt like they just kind of had to do it because he was there.
Seems like an obligation. They do this quite a bit where they put the top signing on. Because who did they leave? They left Antonacci off. They left Saki off, right? There's
Yep.
4 because they had 4 different ones than us.
Yeah.
I think they left Eater off of theirs, which look,
yes.
I think that's been the biggest gripe about our list. Like I kept him on because we had writers vote for him. I voted for him. I totally understand the people that think like if you have a top 5 or 6-ish system, like Jake Eater shouldn't be on that list based off of, like especially if he transitions to relief here soon, and it's just like kind of a lefty middle reliever type guy, like he won't be on at midseason. So that's I understand that gripe for sure. But yeah, I feel like they did not rank Eater. So they have Varys on, they have Schweitzer on, and they had Alejandro Cruz on. Obviously, theirs who we did not.
Yeah. And what's there? There's Eater, Saki, Antonacci, and who was the other one that they missed?
Eater,
I'm trying to think.
Saki, Antonacci. Yeah, there's got to be somebody else.
There's
because
one more, and I'm not sure
yeah,
who it is.
yeah, I don't either because they have Mogollon on too,
Yeah, I
and
don't know.
and we do not. So yeah, I'm not really
All
sure
right.
who
Well,
else they included. Somebody could look that up and find that out. But there's 4 names that they have on that we did not include. Oh, you know who they don't? Oh, they do have Albertus on. So never
yep.
mind. I don't know who it is.
Is Nishida Stephen Kwan extra, extra, extra light?
Yeah, maybe. What did I call him? I called him like Walmart Stephen Kwan or something. Like I don't remember. Like
Yeah, I don't know. I like the thing is the bat to ball's there, and he walks a lot.
yeah.
Plays I'd say that the
The
market
defense,
difference
right?
here is the
Yeah.
defense. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah,
is
I
the
just don't know. I just don't know where he can play.
yeah. I mean, he's not
Mm-hmm.
particularly a wizard at second base. His
Mm-hmm.
range is pretty good, and he's quick. It's just the glove tends to betray him a little bit more often
Yeah.
than you would like. And then in left field, I don't feel like the route running
Right.
and range out there is
Yeah.
as good as should be.
So I know we were going to get into some other stuff quickly. There's a lot of people like asking about Luis Robert. He's obviously been really good. I think at this point, like I kind of feel like when we go to the opening day on March 27th. He will be in the lineup and in center field. Bruce Levine was interesting. I feel like this weekend talking about Robert because he was talking about the Reds and the Phillies and how there's some teams that are interested. And what he said was the White Sox are asking for 3 top prospects, whatever that means, and teams are only willing to trade 2. And in the talks with the Reds, like the Reds wanted the White Sox to eat money, and that's like a no-go for the Sox. So, like, I'm kind of conflicted on that because to me, like, if you can get some rock star return, but the team requires you to like eat money, I feel like the White Sox should not be cheap and they should do that, right? But I also think it's like $15 million and he's a bargain the next 2 years. Like, if you want the Sox to eat money, like the haul should be ridiculous. So, like, I don't totally blame them for not like wanting to eat money in a Robert trade. Um, I'm curious to see how nervous Chris Getz gets about bringing him into the season, though. So I don't think that like I don't feel great about the fact that he's going to be on the opening day roster, but that's what I would like bet on if I had to. And the fact that Bruce still brought up Philly, I was a little bit intrigued by because that's the guy. That's who that's who you want thinking he doesn't have enough is Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah. And speaking of, Matt brings up Seattle's probably the best in terms of position prospects to choose from. And Adrian, who's kicking around here in the comments, he had an article that he put out, which is, hoping that the Mariners are trade possibility for the White Sox for Robert. And there's some interesting stuff in there. So go and check that out. It's also being mentioned in here the Dodgers as well being a trade possible trade. I mean, do the Dodgers really need to trade away more prospects for a Luis Robert Jr.? Does
Right.
that even seem like it's even worth it for them?
I mean, do you think Stanton factors in? Like, would the Yankees be interested now?
I don't see why not. I mean, they
Because
definitely
are they
need some
playing? Are they
bats.
playing Dominguez in center field?
I mean, that's his position. And if you watch him play left field, you like him more in center field than you do in left. That said, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. For all the things that I heard about his defense from Yankees fans saying he was the
Yeah.
next Mantle, and then I watch him out there running around and it's not that good.
I agree with Elijah on this. He has a point in the comments. Just he kind of says if Philly falls behind Atlanta and the Mets early on in April, that he could see like a May type Arias trade. Like, look, Getz is going to trade Luis Robert whenever he gets his asking price. So this is kind of contingent on the other teams right now. Like, I'm sure his stomach like doesn't feel great like gambling on this and going into the season because it's not like I mean this guy gets hurt running bases, right? I mean it's just kind of you just never know. So yeah, I think it's obviously a main storyline. I do think for anybody like me and others who think that because there's one end of the spectrum where you think the White Sox are doomed until 2030. And then there's kind of what I think, where I think 2026 could be really interesting, even though I don't expect them to be very good. If that's true, I think it requires 2 guys that are pretty good in return for Luis Robert, and they become like part of this like core that we've been talking about.
It'd be nice to see somebody become part of a core from one of these trades.
Yeah, it would be
We
great.
did see a Miguel Vargas home run yesterday.
Yeah,
Finally,
that's why I brought out the Stringer Bell, baby.
we back up.
Yeah,
Let me see here. Yeah, I don't know. I as far as the eating money for the White Sox, I don't see like if they're trading Luis Robert. In my opinion, they should be like, we're not going to eat money just because the talent's there. I don't think
no,
it's necessarily a monetary
right.
thing as it is like a value thing.
Yeah, but like so my thing with the Reds is like they might legit have some issues with paying it, right? But the price for Luis Robert with you paying down the contract is different than the price for Luis Robert with you not taking the whole contract. So, if they're haggling over the cost for just him, well then you better be prepared to throw more in if the White Sox are going to eat some of the money. Like I mean I just like think it's ridiculous.
Fair enough. Um, You got anything else? I don't see anything
No, so
pressing
just as
here.
did you want to do any more for a minute just on Grant Taylor and what this has looked like? I mean, it's just so I've had some media members ask, me just because like people haven't paid as much attention, and they had just talking to scouts and stuff like, I've heard the remarks, and you're gonna hate this, by the way, and I hate it too, but just like, is this the type of guy that you put in the bullpen and like get him to the majors because of like what you've kind of seen in these like short stint types of things? And obviously, like I said, that answer is no, because he's much more valuable like as a number 2 starter that he might be. I think the fallback is that. Like when the fallback is like this guy is ridiculous out of the book. Because look, like what could happen, like if he gets hurt more, right, and he just never accumulates the innings, I think there's still a big league future because he's ridiculous, right? But it's just not time for that. The thing that I will say is I'm really curious to see how many innings he pitches this year because he'll be 23 in May. Like I kind of feel like if you get enough of an innings load, 2026 arrival even for Grant Taylor to me makes sense because I just don't want these guys throwing all these innings in the minors if they don't have to, if they're like ready, because he's going to be too good for minor league hitters. He's just in a weird spot innings wise.
I feel like if this was his draft year and we drafted him and then he pitched a couple of innings in the minors and then they brought him up in the bullpen specifically to keep him pitching, if they were to do that, that I would be more okay with than just all of a sudden in the beginning of spring, like in the very early parts of spring saying, "Yep, let's get him in as a reliever up in the major leagues now cuz he's really nasty." Let's let him be nasty in the minor leagues as a starter and get some
Yeah.
innings and see if he can become that guy.
Well, like, so to me, like, I know people aren't watching minor league games, obviously, right? But 16 innings in Kannapolis last year over 4 starts, he had 25 Ks and 1 walk. Like, is that more or less informative than what he's done in the 8th and 9th inning of spring training baseball game? Like this is like not that surprising to me. And I don't mean this as like a criticism of anyone because like I know people like just it's not the priority, right? Is paying attention to future or to former second round picks, but I mean if you know the history at all about this guy, like he was going to be a top 20 pick. Like if this dude pitched at LSU,
Oh, he would have
he
probably been a top 10 pick had he
you
actually
know,
pitched the full year.
right. And then there was nothing suggesting that like otherwise, like in any of his minor league stints, and then he got hurt again. So to me, it's all about innings and injuries. Like, can he stay healthy? How many innings are they going to let him throw? But he is a dude, and putting him in the bullpen makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of other things that make absolutely no sense, playoffs?
Yeah,
Playoffs?
the playoffs at Birmingham, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, you got anything else other than Grant Taylor's extremely nasty?
No, I don't think so. Beef with there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. I like that. That's, and some of these guys, I mean, I'll agree in 2026. I think this year you have to kind of slow play things a little bit because I think they just don't really care that much about this season. But I do think there's a point this year where like, I mean, if Noah Schultz and Grant Taylor and Hagen are all just like awesome. I mean, people are gonna want to see these guys by summer, I would think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree with what Uncle Ted says. Mason Adams is a baller. Well, he's not going to be a ball. He used to be a baller, but now
Yeah.
he's going to be pretty soon be a White Sox.
He's gonna be a knight for a while. Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think for the time being. But all right, so with that, I'm going to run to the newest installment of Jimmy Hoax,
Oh no.
where we highlight a fantastic
What did I
tweet
do? Oh yeah.
from Jimmy Hoax.
Oh, that one's a bad
James
one.
Fox says, "I am the leader of the Zach Collins fan club. The line starts behind me. This is exciting."
So what do you think? Did you go back to look and see like what this was? Like, was he good in Birmingham for like 2 weeks and I tweeted this or what?
I don't know. It's 2019, so I mean, it has to be something like that, right? Where he went on
He's
one of his heaters,
is
either
he?
in Charlotte or Birmingham.
Well, he's not in the big leagues yet at this point,
Not 19. No, yeah, right. That would be
dude.
before.
I said like I have really bad. There's like really bad Zach Collins tweets out there, and I don't have. I mean, I don't like delete tweets, so like I don't really care. Like I'm kind of a moron. But yeah, no, there's like Andrew Vaughn and Zach Collins. I kind of ignored. I just ignored the strikeouts too much. I thought he'd be able to walk and hit for power and fine, but he just like didn't make enough contact at all. So
I 100% agree. You know, I never said that I was at the head of the line, but I did have faith in it. And James Hesterman that's in here will back this up. I did think that I did give him a little bit more run than I should have, because I thought that at some point maybe the bat would start working, but no, sir, unfortunately not. So that was your weekly dose of Jimmy Hoax.
trying to
So I
think
hope
what
you enjoyed that.
there's probably some Alec Hansen ones.
Oh man, me too.
Trying to think who else I liked. Yeah, there's a bunch. We could do yeah. There's plenty to do this every week for a while. So
Yeah, there's plenty there for ammunition for both of us, I'm
did somebody
sure.
send you that or did you find that one?
No, I found it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
All right. Vince mentions that Hostetler loved him
Yeah.
too. If
I
I
don't
remember,
yeah.
he said he would have taken him number 1 overall, and
Uh-huh.
that would have been a mistake.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to walk us out, James. You have been watching / listening to the Future Sox podcast. If you are listening to this in podcast form, know that you can find us every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube and the Purple app. You can also find this podcast along with all of our written content at FutureSox.net. If you are looking for White Sox prospect highlights, you can find them on X at FutureSox and now also here on our YouTube channel, although I haven't been uploading them so much in spring training just because it's a pain. If you love the content and want to support us here at FutureSox, there is a link to our Patreon in our channel description and at FutureSox.net. You can also toss up a super chat on our YouTube stream. Also, don't forget to like this stream and subscribe with notifications so you know that when we're going live while helping us in the World Wide Web algorithms. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox, and he is James Fox at James Fox 917. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening and commenting in the chat. You guys drive this community, and we appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. You guys are the best. We'll catch up with you guys next week. Have a good night, and we will talk to you